going on, y'all? My name is Spice. This is Spice Can't Fish, and today we're talking rods and reels. So I did one of these videos last year on my channel, but I wanted to make another one just because my rod and reel arsenal is obviously always changing and always getting better or updating. And right now I have a whole different set of rod and reels that I had when I started, and I've mixed a few things up here and there. So I'm gonna kind of just sit down and explain you guys each of my rods and reels, what I use them for, and how I like them. Now I want to say real quick, this isn't me trying to brag or anything. These are all rods and reels that I've bought just over time. I'm not saying you need all these rods and reels. Honestly, I could probably do with like maybe half of them, but to be honest, like it's just nice to have a bunch of rods and reels. If you can afford it, I would definitely suggest having, you know, more than one or two rods and reels. So I think we're just gonna go in the order from smallest to largest. I think that makes sense. So we'll start with like my shortest rod and we'll work our way up. All right, so I'm gonna start off with both of my spinning rods and reels. So these are both 6'6" medium fast combos. This is just kind of like the average spinning rod and reel that I use. Honestly, I could probably go with something a little bit longer, like a 6'10" or a 7 foot, but this is just what I've been using, and I'm not really super particular about my spinning rod, so it doesn't really matter to me all that much what I use. This is the main spinning rod and reel that I use. It's a 6'6", like I said. It's a Fluger Monarch rod with an Abu Garcia, I think it's a Black Max on here. Sorry, an Ultra Max on here. This is a pretty cheap rod and reel combo. I think the rod, it actually came with a different reel, but I think the whole combo is like 60 bucks, and then this reel came with another rod, and I think that combo was like 50 bucks. So overall, this isn't a really expensive combo altogether. But I really like this rod. It's comfortable, it's relatively light, pretty sensitive as well for the price. So you know what, it works. And again, I'm not really super picky with my spinning rods and reels. So you guys have probably seen this rod on the channel a whole bunch, but probably not the reel very much. Like I said, this was on another rod originally, and that rod recently broke. I used to just use it for, like if some of my friends went out with me, this was just kind of like a backup reel that they could use. The reel that I originally had on this was an Akuma Stratus. I think it was the Stratus 5 or the Stratus 6. It's kind of an older reel. I've had it for a few years and it just kind of started crapping out on me. So I decided to just switch it out and brought one of my backup reels to the front. And obviously, like, I'll just use this for anything finessey. So Ned rigs, drop shots, small swim baits. Sometimes I'll throw a Senko on here, but I'll usually throw a Senko on one of my other rods, which we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, all around a pretty great combo. Hasn't really let me down, and I've been pretty happy with it, even though it's not super expensive. The other spinning rod that I have is this one. It's a Daiwa combo. It's an Ondine or an Ondine. I don't really know how you say it. I've had this combo for a long time. This is actually like, I want to say one of the first combos I ever got when I was a little tiny kid. And I've just been using it ever since. I mean, it's held up really well over the years. I didn't really use it a lot back when I was a kid because I didn't really do a lot of fishing back then. It was really just like whenever I went camping with my family, but I really like this rod and reel. Again, I don't use it all that much, but it's just kind of like a backup in case something happens to that one. Or if I want to bring one of my friends out and do some fishing, this is usually the rod and reel combo that I have them use. All right, getting into the casting rods and reels, something I'm a little bit more passionate about. So we're gonna start off with this one. This is my jerkbait setup. It's a 6'6" medium heavy fast action, but I've had this rod for so long that it's been worn down to the point where it's like more of a medium moderate. The rod is a Quantum Octane. I don't know if they make this rod anymore. I don't really remember. I got this rod, this was probably either the first or second bait casting combo that I ever bought, was this rod. It came with a different reel on it originally, but the reel was absolute garbage. It crapped out on me in like 2 days, I think. I'm not really a huge fan of this rod, but again, I just use it for jerk baits because it's a little bit smaller, a little bit better for throwing those lighter baits. I have this rod paired up with the Cast King Spartacus. It's a 6.5 or 6.4 to 1 gear ratio, I think. Something like that. It's a 6-speed for sure. 6.3 to 1, sorry. Yeah, so it's a 6-speed reel, a little bit slower than what I would normally throw. Usually I like a 7-speed reel for jerkbait, but this is just kind of what I have at the moment. At some point, I'm going to upgrade this to a different reel. I'm not really a huge fan of this reel. I'm actually going to do a video going over this reel as well as the other Cast King reel, because I've had these for about a year, so I want to actually do like a full, like 1 year later, like honest review of these reels. Right now, I've got 15-pound line on here. I was using a little bit heavier line because, again, this is my jerkbait rod. And while I was throwing a jerkbait this past season, I was noticing I was getting it caught in grass a lot when I was using like 10 or 12 pound. So I switched up to a little bit heavier line to keep the jerkbait a little bit higher in the water, and it seemed to work pretty well. Although I didn't really catch any fish on jerkbaits this year, so it didn't work that well, I guess. But yeah, this isn't really a rod that I use all that much. I'm not much of a jerkbait fisherman, as you guys can probably tell. And yeah, not really much else to say about this rod. Alright, so now let's talk about the other rod with the other Cast King on it. This is my crankbait rod for square bills and like medium diving crankbaits. So anything from like that 3 to, I guess probably like 8 or 10 foot range I'd throw on this. Really any of your smaller roddy crankbaits would do really well on this rod. That's what I use it for. So the rod is a 13 Fishing Omen Black Series. It's a 7 foot medium moderate. I like this rod a whole lot just because of the cork grip. I really like a full grip, especially if it's cork, but I also have another rod in here, which I'll get to in a minute, that has like a EVA foam full grip, which I also really like. But yeah, I've been a really big fan of this rod. I'm not really a big fan of the 13 Fishing reels themselves, but the rods that they make they're not bad. Like I said, this is the rod with the other Cast King reel on it, so this is the Cast King Brutus. This is the 6.3 to 1, I think, as well. Yeah, this one's 6.3 to 1 as well. So both the Cast Kings are 6.3 to 1 gear ratios. This rod also has 12 pound fluorocarbon on it. That's really all I throw for crankbaits. A lot of people will throw 10, or some people actually throw 15. I like 12. It's a little bit more abrasion resistant than 10, so you can throw it around rocks a little bit better, but it lets your crankbait get down as far as you actually want it. And it's a little bit more effective at getting those crankbaits down deeper than like 15 pound line would be. Alright, so this is a little bit more of a recent rod for me. I haven't actually had a whole ton of time to throw this around, but this is the Favorite Phantom Reg Series rod. It's a 7 foot medium heavy fast action. This rod was designed by John B in collaboration with Favorite Fishing back in the day when they used to have a collaboration. If you guys want some more information on this rod, I will leave a link to the video where I unboxed this rod down in the description below. So you guys can go check that out if you want some more information. I actually kind of went over this rod a little bit more in depth there. Paired up on this rod, I have a Shimano Engetsu 100 BB. I really like this reel. This is probably my favorite reel that I own right now, and I am super excited to get out in the spring and put some more work in on this. You guys have probably seen this reel a whole bunch on this channel already. I can't stop saying enough good things about it. It's essentially just the JDM version of the Casitas. Again, if you guys are interested in seeing some more information on this reel, I have a video where I unboxed this and took it out and did a whole bunch of fishing with it. So if you guys are interested in seeing that video, I'll leave that linked in the description for y'all as well. This rod, I have a 30 pound braid to a 15 pound fluorocarbon leader on there. This is really just what I use on here. I was originally using just straight 15 pound fluorocarbon, but this is a 100 size reel, so the spool's a little bit smaller than your average 150 size bait caster. So by using that braid, I'm actually able to get more line on there and get a little bit further cast than if I was using just plain fluorocarbon. But I absolutely love this combo. Again, I haven't gotten a ton of time to throw it around or get a lot of work put in on it, but I'm really excited to throw it around some more in the spring. What I'm planning on using this rod for is, well, actually I have a few things in mind. First up, I want to use it for like smaller finesse jigs, so anything like 1/4 ounce to like maybe 3/8 ounce. It would probably work really well on this rod. Also like Texas rigs in that same kind of weight category, like a 1/4 ounce to a 3/8 ounce Texas rig. This would just be a really good pond topping rod. If you wanted to just have one rod and reel combo, this would probably be the one that I pick out of all of them. And I'm also really excited to throw some lipless crankbaits around on this rod. It's got a little bit of a nice like parabolic tip since it is just a medium heavy, but it's got enough backbone that I can really rip that lipless out of grass. So I'm really excited to put some work in on this rod in the spring and see if we can get some really big fish. Alright, so here we go. This is my next rod. This is a 7'1" medium heavy fast action. This is a St. Croix Bass X rod with an Abu Garcia Revo X reel on there. A lot of X in here. I didn't do that intentionally. I'm just now realizing as I'm saying it out loud that that's something that happened, but yeah, I really like this combo as well. I used to use this Revo with 20 pound fluorocarbon on it for my jigs and like heavy Texas rigs, but I've realized that it doesn't really have, I don't know, what I'm looking for, I guess, in a flipping reel or like a heavier Texas rig reel. Right now I have a jig tied on there with a whole bunch of hair on it actually, just because I was doing some inside flipping and pitching practice with this rod and reel. It's a really nice like short rod and reel. I like it for like really close quarters flipping and pitching, and also when you're indoors and you don't want to go outside because it's 12 degrees. But yeah, even though I have a jig tied on here right now, I would not usually use this rod for a jig. What I've actually really noticed this rod shines for are spinner baits. weightless Senkos and like small weedless swim baits. So if you were to throw like a Kitech on like a 1/4 ounce hook, that would be really great for this, like a 4.8 size or something like that. Or just your average like 5 or 6 inch Senko is also really great on this rod. Again, like I said, it's a 7.1 medium heavy fast action, but I think this rod's actually a little bit softer than what they actually rate it for. So that's why I really like it for Senkos. It's got a little bit more of a parabolic whippy tip, so you can really get those weightless Senkos out there. But at the same time, it's got enough backbone where if you're fighting a fish in grass or something, you're able to pull it out. I've actually used this rod for a couple of years now, and I'm really happy with it. The only thing that I did with it was I actually broke the tip off of it, but I've since fixed that, so that wasn't anything to do with like the rod manufacturer or anything. I'm just an idiot, so you know. But yeah, I really like this rod. This is probably another one of my favorites to throw around. Alright, stepping it up a little bit longer, this is my 7.3 medium moderate. This is like my medium to deep diving crankbait rod. The actual rod is the Abu Garcia Ike series winch rod. Like I said, it's a 7.3 medium moderate. I think they redesigned these or remodeled them, so instead of the winch rod, I think they're the delay series now, as opposed to the winch series, but it's the same rod. And on here, I have a Daiwa Tatula 100P. This is the 5.4 to 1 gear ratio, and this is, again, my moderate to deep diving crankbait rod. When I'm fishing a little bit deeper diving crankbait, I like to use a little bit more of a slow gear ratio, which is why I lean for the 5.4 as opposed to like the 6 speeds. You could definitely get away with using a 6 speed for this, but I just find that you get a little bit more of like a winching power and a little bit more torque if you're using a little bit lower speed reel. I haven't gotten a ton of time to throw this rod around. I've had it for a few years now, and I don't really use it all that much because I have that other crankbait rod that I just use for most of my crankbait fishing. This is again for my deeper diving crankbaits, and I don't really fish those a whole ton, but I think I'm gonna try and put a little bit more work in on this rod this spring and see what it really can do. All right, getting onto this rod. This is my jig rod. It's a 7.4 heavy moderate. It's a 6 cents Milliken Fishing MFR series rod. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about this rod. I've had it for about 6 to 8 months now, and I absolutely love this thing. Right now it's got a jig on here because again I was doing some indoor flipping practice, but usually this is my swim baits and chatterbaits rod. That's actually what this rod was designed to do. It was designed for a swim jig, but I think that parabolic tip really helps for a chatterbait as well. Really lets those fish eat it, and it's a great rod. I think I've only lost like 2 fish the entire year on this rod, and I think one of them was 100% my fault. So maybe I lost 1 fish on this rod the entire year because of the rod. This is the rod I was talking about with that full EVA foam grip handle. I really wish they had this option for all the MFR series rods. Unfortunately, a lot of them have the split grip, which is fine. I don't mind split grip rods. As you guys can probably tell, most of my rods are split grips, but just for a personal preference, I would rather it have a full grip handle. And I think over time, I'm gonna start to migrate all of my rods over to like full grip handle rods. The reel that I have paired up on here is another one that you guys have probably seen on the channel a whole bunch. It's my Shimano SLX DC, and honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to take this reel off of this rod. The two of these just pair together super well. Between the DC chip and just the parabolic bend, it's the perfect chatterbait swim jig combo. Right now I'm fishing 17-pound fluorocarbon on here. I could also go down to 15 or up to 20. It doesn't really matter to me for fishing chatterbait or a swim jig. I think 17 is just a really good all-around if you're fishing some heavier grass, but you don't need to, you know, absolutely winch fish out of just like the heaviest stuff. All right, another rod you guys probably haven't seen on the channel a whole bunch, but I do really enjoy. This is my frogging rod. It's my 7-foot extra heavy fast action. It's a Denali Attack series rod with a Fluger Supreme reel on there. The reel is a I want to say 7.3 to 1? I really should know this, but I don't. Sorry, it's a 7.1 to 1 gear ratio. So it's a little bit slower of a 7-speed reel, but still a really good reel for any sort of frog fishing or like high-speed fishing that you want to do. Honestly, I could probably go up to like an 8-speed reel if I really wanted to, but I've had such good luck with this reel that I don't think I'm going to change it until it breaks. This is actually a discontinued reel, I think. I don't know if they make these anymore, but I'm a really big fan of this reel. Super great quality for a $100 price point. Everything on here is really heavy, really high quality components, and it's just a really great reel. The handle on it's a little bit loose because I fell on it with my entire body weight and bent it a little bit, so I can't really fault that to the reel. I think that was just my fault. Now this, of course, has a 65-pound braid on here. If you guys saw my craziest frog fishing ever video, I made a really big mistake and I put some backing on this reel. I will never do that again. If you guys want to see some more and understand what I'm talking about, I'll leave that video linked for y'all. That was a really good video. Again, craziest fish catch of my life. It was something else. But yeah, I don't use this rod a whole lot. It's really nice when I do. The one thing that I'm not a huge fan of are the grips. I think they're wind grips, but I don't know. These ones just, they don't work really well with the whole like sticky when wet thing. Like I think wind grips are supposed to be like stickier when wet, but I've had this rod slip out of my hand before a whole bunch of times, so I'm not really sure what that's all about. It's not the lightest rod, but I mean, it's a frogging rod, so you're not really looking for a light rod. So overall, really satisfied with this rod. I just made a tackle warehouse order with a whole bunch of frogs in it, so I'm really excited to get some new frogs to try out for this rod. And hopefully we can break it out and use it a little bit more this coming spring and summer. And the last rod in my rod arsenal, and the only rod in it with no reel on here. This is a really recent rod for me. This is my new swim bait rod. It's a Daiwa DX, the DX SB. It's the 801X Heavy FB. So it's the extra heavy model rated for 3 to 10 ounce lures. This thing is like, it's when people say it's a broomstick, like this is what they're talking about. It's a broomstick. There's no flex in this rod at all. It's crazy. I haven't really been able to throw this rod around all that much. I was able to test it out a little bit when I first got it, but the ice came and I ran out of time. And of course, it's kind of hard to test a rod with no reel on it, so I have to wait for a reel to come in for this. But I was actually able to get a new swim bait reel for Christmas, so that's on the way, and I would definitely keep an eye out for that video because I'm going to be doing an unboxing and a little bit of a first impressions for that, and I'm really excited. But yeah, I bought this rod just to specifically throw really big baits on. Again, it's designed for lures that are like 3 to 10 ounces, so that's like borderline musky fishing. But that's going to do it, y'all. That's my entire rod and reel arsenal. Those are all of my rods. Again, I have, I think, 10 rods. I want to say again, I don't think you need to have this many rods. I'm not trying to make a bragging video or show off or anything. I just want to show you guys the rods and reels that I'm going to be using for next year in case you guys were interested in picking up any of these for yourself. But I think that's going to do it for me, y'all. Check them and wreck them, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.